Hello guys and welcome to EllAstrology, and today I'm going to tell you guys about the astrology between Ed and Rose from 90 Day Fiance. So 90 Day Fiance is quite an entertaining show and I've really enjoyed watching it. I have really been interested in the relationship dynamic between Rose and Ed. So what I did was I went and I looked at their natal charts, and I just want to explain to you guys how the astrology influences a lot of their behaviors in the show. So just a disclaimer, I don't have their exact birth time. I also don't have their exact place of birth, but I do have the country of birth. However, my analysis is mainly based off of the planets and the signs and not much on the actual mathematical aspects and the houses. So it doesn't really matter if I have the time or place of birth in essence. Okay, so firstly, it was quite controversial when in the show, Ed asked Rose to shave her legs.
Your legs were kind of like mine. They were hairy.
A lot of people thought this was out of line, and I personally also feel that this is completely out of line. It's not his place to ask her to shave her legs whatsoever.
Leg hair, it just seems kind of less feminine for a woman. Yeah, I don't like leg hair. It's gross.
However, if you look at his astrology, you'll see that he has his Venus placed in the sign of Taurus. Now, Taurus is actually a sign that is quite aware of things like appearances and just things like your more materialistic and physical aspects of life. Taurus and Libra are actually ruled by Venus, and Venus is actually the planet of beauty. So generally men who have their Venus in Taurus are quite attracted to beauty, and they put a lot of emphasis on their partner needing to be beautiful in their eyes.
What do you see?
I see what I like.
So a way to explain this to you guys is Taurus is basically the opposite sign of Scorpio. So generally men who have their Venus in Taurus are quite attracted to beauty, and they put a lot of emphasis on their partner needing to be beautiful in their eyes. So a way to explain this to you guys is Taurus is basically the opposite sign of Scorpio. So if Scorpio represents deep soul-to-soul connections and penetrating through physical barriers and connecting with a soul, Taurus is the opposite of that. Taurus does not really represent connecting in a soul-to-soul way, but Taurus is more of a sign that is more aware of the physical appearances and just the physical state of things. So in essence, if you look at the astrology of Ed's love nature, he is the kind of guy that does have a specific beauty standard that he has of women, and he might expect his partner to adhere to the specific beauty standard. Now, Ed is a Taurus, and Ed has extremely strong Taurus energy in his charts, and that basically indicates that he is very, very aware of his material surroundings, and he's also very aware of his material possessions and his financial status. Taurus is a sign that represents money. Taurus is the sign that represents the physical reality. So in essence, Ed bases his identity off of how much he has, off of what he has. So in the show, when Ed was becoming fearful and he was becoming a little bit insecure that Rose might not love him for who he is, and Rose only loves him for his money, and because Rose's sister asked him for money, he thinks that they're just after his money.
I love Rose, but there's one thing that's holding me back, and that is whether or not Rose was involved with her sister asking me for money.
Why not 100%?
Because
If you look at his astrology, this is actually quite a natural reaction because he bases his entire identity off of how much money he has. He bases his entire identity off of what he has because he has very, very strong Taurus energy within his chart. So it's a natural reaction for him to think that when other people look at him, they see everything that he has because he is so incredibly aware of it. In his eyes, when people look at him, they see what he has. So Ed actually has an interesting combination in his chart where his part of fortune, Jupiter, and North Node are all in a conjunction to each other. Now, his North Node is actually in Gemini, and because he has Jupiter and his part of fortune right next to it, it does indicate that he finds his fortune through the media, through public recognition. The reason for this is because Gemini is the sign that does rule over the media. Gemini is basically the sign that rules over all the information that you see online, especially things like TV shows. So Big Ed has his Mars in Virgo, and that basically indicates that he is quite the perfectionist. And the actual combination with having his Venus in Taurus and having his Mars in Virgo indicates that in his relationships, he is a lot more aware of the physical reality of the relationships. So it's difficult for Ed to kind of dive deep into emotions, dive deep into his emotions and his partner's emotions, and to actually connect in a very strong, deep emotional sense, because there's kind of like this barrier within him where he just kind of observes the physical reality around him, and he places much more importance onto this physical reality.
Water is coming.
A little bit.
Oh my God, is that thunder?
Yeah.
So the electrical, no problem.
No,
No, okay.
it's only fine.
I know.
Don't worry.
I was scared.
Having Mars in Virgo makes him want to have things be a specific way, so he can have a very, very controlling attitude due to this. Mars in Virgo can also make him seem quite critical and quite offensive in a sense as well. Like, for example, in the show, when he asked Rose to get an STD test.
But I have a favor.
What the favor?
So there's a test that you can take.
You test me?
No, yeah, it's a test for I don't know if you understand it. It's STD, which is I think it's a blood test, and they just test to see if you have like sexually transmitted disease.
That could be something that could be influenced by Mars in Virgo, because Virgo is the sign of purity, and Mars is in essence what you pursue, what you want, and what you desire. So he desires something pure. Ed has a Gemini North Node and a Sagittarius South Node, which basically indicates that he is the kind of guy who has somewhat of a more self-aware and self-righteous attitude when it comes to the things that he believes to be true and the values that he holds. So with the North Node in Gemini and the South Node in Sagittarius axis, in his case, what it represents is having your own personal truth and believing in that truth. So for example, he believes women should not have leg hair, and he believes women should have bare leg hair. In his head, he believes that is what is right. He believes that is the truth. However, he needs to actually learn to develop his North Node Gemini side, which means that he needs to learn to see life through the eyes of others and see the values and just the perception of others as valuable as well. So with this specific axis, what he does struggle with is to see life through the eyes of other people and to kind of understand what things are like for other people. He only sees things through his eyes and the filters that he applies. Now, Big Ed also has his Black Moon in Capricorn, which basically indicates that he wants to make a good impression on the world. He wants to have a very good social standing, a very good reputation, and he can possibly go about this in roundabout ways. He can hurt people, he can walk over people in order to make himself shine, in order to make himself big.
Sila, ang hirap pa silang, ngayon nagsisinungaling siya na nagsisinungaling para itago sa sarili niya na, alam mo yun, hindi makita ng ba't tao yung ugali niya. Ako ma'am, tiniis ko lahat yun eh. Kahit napakasama ng ugali niyan eh. Nasa likod o harap ng... Sa umpisa pa lang, ma'am, sinabi ko na sa kanya lahat yan. Lagi ko pa ulit-ulit ko pinapalawanan. Kahit hirap na ako mag-English, ma'am, na intindi niya sinasabi niya. May ibo pala siya sa akin.
Okay, and then the last thing in Big Ed's chart is he has his moon conjunct his Chiron. That basically indicates that he is incredibly, incredibly wounded inside himself. He is incredibly insecure. There is a lot of pain and there's a lot of doubts about himself and regarding himself in him. And through having these specific insecurities, he actually creates a lot of situations in his life where he puts up walls or he pushes people away from him. His mind is constantly filled with doubts and his mind is constantly filled with insecurities due to this aspect. Okay, so now for the chart of Rose. So Rose has her black moon in Cancer. That basically indicates that she's the kind of girl, when she's hurt and when somebody insults her, she withdraws herself. So a lot of the times you can see in the show, like for example, when Ed asked her to brush her teeth and to use mouthwash, she went all quiet on him and she just looked at him and kind of kept her feelings to herself.
Okay.
Later on, she started explaining to him, look, the reason my breath stinks is due to an ulcer that I have. The thing is, with a black moon in Cancer, a person will constantly take stabs at them. They'll constantly take, critique. They'll constantly take insults from a person. And they'll continuously kind of retreat into their shell and kind of just keep it to themselves until eventually they'll just snap and they'll stop dealing with it and they just can't take it anymore, which is the case with what happened with Rose. Now, Rose has her Venus, which is her love planet, in Gemini, which basically indicates that she has two sides to her when it comes to her relationships. If you watch the show, you'll see that the one side of Rose is a very, very caring, very, very loving, very bubbly kind of girl who's quite affectionate towards Ed. Then you'll see the other side to Rose in the show is more of a withdrawn kind of Rose, where she's not as affectionate towards him, she's not as caring and happy towards him. So that basically just indicates how in her love style, she has this dual nature where she can kind of seesaw between being incredibly caring, being incredibly loving and open towards her partner, and then going to being a bit more closed off and just a bit more, serious towards her partner. So Rose actually has her North Node in Libra. This basically means that it is part of her destiny, in essence, to experience relationships and the lessons that relationships teach her. Now, what's interesting about Rose's chart is that she has Chiron in a conjunction to her North Node. Now, Chiron is basically the asteroid that represents your wounds, and having Chiron in a conjunction to her North Node in Libra indicates that she is going to experience a relationship in her life that is going to wound her, but it's going to shape her. So in essence, her experience with Ed was very painful. It hurt her. It really, really wounded her, and she'll probably never get over this experience and how much this has actually hurt her. However, this has made her. This has made her who she is, and this has shaped her. She will now be a much more influential and a much more stronger woman due to this. So in essence, her wound that she has in relation to the relationship with Ed is what's going to heal her as well and make her a stronger person. So that's why they always say Chiron is the wounded healer. So because she has her South Node in Aries, it basically means that she is incredibly self-assertive in her relationships. So she will not let somebody walk all over her. She will not let somebody use and abuse her, for example. If she sees that somebody is crossing the line with her or someone's trying to cross the line, she will stop it and she will put them in their place.
Change your behavior because if another say another girl, and I think you give her again what you hurt me.
So you think I'm bad? I'm a bad person, okay.
Yeah.
Rose is lucky because she has her North Node in Libra, which means that in her life she is going to be given many opportunities for relationships, and she'll really be able to grow herself, make herself a better and stronger person through her experiences of her relationships that she has. Rose has her Mars in a conjunction with her Mercury, and that basically means that she says things like it is, like she speaks her mind. Mars is the planet of anger, Mars is the planet of aggression, and Mercury represents your mind. So when you bring the planet of aggression together with the planet of the mind, you can imagine when a person gets angry and mad, they are going to express it because the planet of anger is with the planet of their mind. So in essence, when Rose gets angry, when Rose gets upset, she will say it. She will lash out and she will express herself. Rose also likes to talk about her intentions. Rose also likes to talk about her plans and what it is that she wants out of life, because Mars also represents your desires. So Rose was always very upfront with Ed regarding what her desires are in the relationship. Like, for example, when she told him that she wants children.
Our relationship is, I know this not a perfect, but I think both us want being a build and strong family with my son and with 2 babies with you.
So one thing I did find quite interesting is that Ed has his part of fortune in Taurus and Rose has her part of fortune in Scorpio. Now, I don't have their exact birth time, so I can't really see if there is an exact opposition between these points. However, there is a very, very close tie to it being an opposition. What this basically means is that the two of them will find their happiness in two completely different areas of life. So Ed finds his happiness through wealth. He finds his happiness through personal success and accumulating as much resources and just physical objects and material objects around him than what he can. On the other hand, with Rose, she has her part of fortune in Scorpio, which basically indicates that she finds her happiness through connections and deep, deep emotional connections. So the thing is, she won't really find her happiness in riches or in money or social status and those kind of things like what Ed's after. She just wants to find somebody that loves her and that she can truly, truly love. Now the thing is, her and Ed have two completely opposing parts to them when it comes to the things in life that will actually make them happy and bring them their ultimate joy. Now in their synastry charts, you can actually see that Rose's Sun in Gemini conjuncts Ed's Jupiter in Gemini, which basically in essence means that the relationship together with each other will allow them to become big and to expand themselves. So in essence, the interaction that they had with each other led to both of them becoming famous. This is quite a standout aspect to me in terms of how their relationship allowed them to become quite big, to become quite known and quite famous. So I don't have Rose's exact birth time, so I can't really see exactly where her moon is placed. However, I can see that wherever her moon might be placed, it will be quite close to Ed's Mars, Pluto, and Uranus. That basically means that Ed had a lot of power over Rose and especially over her emotional state because it is her moon. So he can very, very easily hurt her and actually manipulate her emotional state with this aspect. Rose having her moon close to Ed's Mars also indicates that she will want children from him. Like, it's a natural reaction for her being in the relationship with Ed to want children with this specific aspect. Okay, and then lastly, I saw that Ed had his black moon Lilith conjunct Rose's Jupiter and Neptune, which basically in essence means that he will use his dark side, he will use like his shadow side to use the light in Rose, to use the good in Rose to basically further himself. Now, because his black moon is in Capricorn, it does mean he wants to make a good impression on the world, like I said earlier, and he will go about this in manipulative and roundabout ways. Now, because his black moon is in a conjunction with Rose's Neptune as well as her Jupiter, which basically means that in the relationship, she was the one who carried the more altruistic qualities, where she was caring, where she was loving, where the relationship was actually a spiritual thing to her. Like, she really, really wanted it. She really, really cared about him. But the thing is, he kind of just manipulated her and used her, especially her good qualities and her sweet and her caring and her loving qualities, because through astrology, he has his black moon on those planets in their synastry chart, which means he will take advantage of these things in her in order for him to make a good impression and and for him to actually grow himself. Okay guys, so that's my video on Ed and Rose. I hope you guys enjoyed my little astrological interpretation on their charts. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see some more astrology content, then subscribe to my channel. And if you have anything to add to what I've said, then please let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys next time.